Hi, I'm Rebecca. Welcome to this tutorial from Oncrawl. You'll be learning how to copy a Data Studio template with Oncrawl. Before you begin, please make sure that the Data Studio option is included in your plan. Here's what we're going to do. First, we'll make sure that the Data Studio option is available. Then we'll get the Data Studio access key, which you'll need to set up the data source in Google Data Studio. We'll make sure that Oncrawl sends data to Data Studio. Then we'll set up the data source in Data Studio, and finally, copy the template. So here goes. We'll start in Oncrawl. We're going to head over to the account settings by clicking on your name, then account. And we'll switch to the tokens view. Scroll down to the Data Studio access key. If this section is empty and the buttons are grayed out, it's a sign that you will need to add the Data Studio option to your plan before continuing. So now let's get the access key. If a key already exists, you can click on View here and copy it and close the window. If one doesn't exist, or if you want to regenerate it, you can click on the blue button to replace the access key here. At this point, you have everything you need to go ahead and set up the connection. So if you want to skip ahead, you can. However, no data is currently shared with Data Studio. It's kind of like having plumbing, but never turning the water on. If you proceed like this, you will see errors in the charts until you do decide to send data. So there are two ways to send Oncrawl data to Data Studio. Here's the first. If you have a finished crawl like these, you can click here and choose Export to Data Studio. Launch the export, and you can see that it's underway here. At this point, you will want to note the configuration, so the crawl profile in the configuration profile column, because you will need this later. The second method is that you can set up a new crawl. You can automatically link all future crawls run with a specific crawl profile to Data Studio. So in the crawl settings, we will want to either choose or create the profile you'd like to use, and I'm going to create one by clicking here and filling out a name, Data Studio. We'll create that and scroll down to Export to under Analysis. I can check the box here to enable the export to Data Studio and save and launch this crawl. This will allow me to have a first set of data in Data Studio. Okay, now let's head over to Data Studio. The first thing we're going to do is add Oncrawl as a data source by clicking Create, Data Source, and searching for Oncrawl. We can click on the connector and authorize it. You'll need to select your account and allow it. Here, it's time to enter your Data Studio access token that we copied earlier and submit. Now you'll need to choose which project and crawl profile you want this data source to use. And I'm sure you see where this is going. But yes, you can create multiple Oncrawl data sources in order to view information from multiple projects in the same Data Studio report. We've also separated your data by crawl profile, so that if you use different profiles to crawl different parts of your site or get different views of your site, you'll always be comparing apples to apples rather than, say, your mobile site to your desktop site or your product catalog to your blog pages. This is why I highly recommend changing the name of this data source to something specific right now, and then clicking Connect. If you want to leave this screen, you can click up in the upper left-hand corner. And now we're ready for the template. So let's say that the Oncrawl customer success team has just shared this template with you, and you'd like to use it with your own data. You'll need to copy the template like this. This will bring up a list of all the data sources used in this template. On the left is the data source we used, and on the right, you'll want to select the equivalent data source for your own data. For example, Oncrawl. On the left is the sample data from Oncrawl. On the right, you'll want to choose the Oncrawl data source that you just created. This template also uses Google Analytics data and Google Search Console URL data. Choose the ones for your site. Okay, let's take a moment here and explain. If you don't have data sources for these, but you do have access to the accounts, you can go back and use this same procedure to create data sources for them. Instead of searching for Oncrawl, search for Google Analytics or Search Console. If you don't have access to the data for these, you can skip this step. It just means the charts that use this data will show errors, and you can remove them later when you get into the template. Now you can click Copy Report, and you're done. This doesn't quite look right, does it? This is what we were talking about earlier. When you see an error, Data Studio cannot connect to your dataset. It's usually the case of plumbing, but no water on. And here it's true, we are still exporting the data from Oncrawl to Data Studio. This usually goes fairly quickly, but if you have a very large data set, or you're exporting multiple things at a time, or you're just a really fast user, you might see this case. If you wait a moment, you'll see that it's listed as Data Studio being exported and not exporting, which means you can head back and everything should look all right. You now have a copy of this template as a report with your own site's Oncrawl data. Congratulations!